In 2019, the movie Joker was released, a spin-off of one of DC's most recognizable villains. The reception was mostly positive, but when a sequel was announced, let's just say it didn't turn out as well as expected. But why? That's what we'll explore today. I'll be spoiling both films, so if you haven't seen Joker, I recommend watching it, and if you haven't seen the sequel, recommend wouldn't be the word I use. That's kind of the point. Chapter 1. Joker. The first film was announced with Joaquin Phoenix as the lead. At the time, he was mostly known for Gladiator and not much else. The idea for this new film will be to focus on Gotham's most famous villain. The story begins with a scene that sets the tone. Arthur Fleck is wearing makeup and staring in the mirror, trying to force a smile as much as possible, even with tears running down his cheek. Arthur's job is to be a clown promoting a business, but one day it turns into a disaster after a group of teenagers steal his sign and beat him up. Arthur goes to see a psychiatrist. Despite taking multiple medications, they don't seem to have the effect he wants, as he still feels miserable. Walking through the sad and dirty streets of Gotham, the only thing that seems to make him happy is spending time with his mother and watching the Murray Franklin show. Arthur has a fantasy where he's in the audience at Murray's show, where he appears once, and Murray immediately speaks to him very superficially. He invites him downstairs, and they talk privately. He tells Arthur he'd rather give everything he has to have a son as responsible as him. This clearly demonstrates Arthur's state of mind by actually imagining this as a realistic expectation. The next day, Arthur is getting ready when his co-worker Randall suddenly tells him that due to all the crime in the city, he should protect himself and hands him a gun. A detail I hadn't noticed, or at least I didn't connect the idea, but it's revealed in a previous scene that Arthur has a condition that causes him to laugh uncontrollably in moments of nervousness. He also has the same reaction when jokes are made about his coworker Gary, who is mocked for his short stature. Arthur seems to laugh at these jokes, but when he's out of the situation, his laughter abruptly cuts off, likely indicating that it's not a genuine reaction, but rather a product of the awkward situation. Arthur talks to his boss, who tells him he was told he lost the sign for the business he was working for. However, he doesn't believe his story, saying it doesn't make sense that the sign was stolen. If he wants to keep his job, he'll have to return it or pay for it out of his own pocket. Arthur's mother at home talks a lot about the letter she sends to Thomas Wayne. Apparently, she worked with him for a time, but that was 30 years ago. She continues to explain that Thomas Wayne is a good man and that he wouldn't allow them to live in that place. Arthur has dreams of one day being a great comedian, perhaps influenced by Murray's show. From his time at comedy shows, it's clear that he doesn't naturally understand what makes comedy funny. He constantly laughs at inappropriate moments, doesn't laugh when the funny part is on, and generally doesn't seem to understand the more human side of comedy. He follows the audience when he feels lost and takes very strange notes, emphasizing eye contact and the type of jokes he delivers more than anything concrete, something that for anyone else will give a more precise idea of what they actually will need. One of the many notes he takes in his diary after this show is, "The worst part about having a mental illness is that people expect you to behave as if you don't." There's also a side story where Arthur meets a girl in an elevator, talks to her very casually about how he chased her, and then Arthur invites her to one of his stand-up shows and she accepts. Unfortunately, Arthur is doing a children's show where he drops the gun his friend Randall had given to him and is fired for it. On the train ride home, a group of 3 young men start harassing a woman. Arthur starts laughing uncontrollably, and after being beaten up, he shoots the 3 young men and casually kisses his neighbor. It is revealed that the boys who died were employees of Thomas Wayne. Wayne is running for mayor and is outraged that there are people who support whoever did this because of the symbolic value of attacking those with power. At an appointment with his psychiatrist, Arthur indirectly explains his current situation, in which he now feels more understood. Unfortunately, she explains that the offices will be closing due to government budget cuts. The city doesn't care about people like him or workers like her. It's not even clear whether he'll be able to get the medication he needs. Arthur tries doing comedy for the first time, but struggles with his nervous laughter. He continues and it doesn't really improve much. The real audio of the scene cuts out, and only a very artificial applause and laughter are heard, symbolizing how Arthur perceives it. As Arthur sees it, the show was a success and the date went well too. Upon returning home, he finds one of the letters his mother wrote to Thomas Wayne going again. This letter explains that due to health complications, they need support more than ever. His mother also seems to confess that Thomas is his father. So Arthur travels to Thomas Wayne's mansion to try to talk to him. After teaching his son some magic, what appears to be a worker or someone from the family arrives and tells him that his mother is crazy and that between the two of them there was never anything. Defeated, he returns home only to be surprised to find his mother in bad shape being transported to an ambulance. And at the hospital, he is interrogated by two detectives who were talking to his mother about the murders that occurred on the train, asking about his recent dismissal. Arthur ignores them and enters the hospital, where he begins to watch television. Murray's show is on, and at one point he starts talking about Arthur's stand-up comedy, but it's to make fun of him. Arthur, after seeing a protest on television, goes up to it and goes into the movie theater where Thomas Wayne is. In the bathroom, Arthur confronts him, claiming that he is his father, when he explains that he never had anything to do with his mother, that she worked for him and adopted Arthur, and that she was also arrested for abusing her son. Arthur clearly can't accept this and ends up getting beaten up. The next day, he gets a call from Murray's show inviting him to appear in person. Arthur goes to the hospital to find information about his mother from 30 years ago. The person in charge finds a diagnosis, reading that she was diagnosed with hallucinations and narcissistic personality disorder, putting her own son at risk. Arthur steals these documents and rushes to read them. Indeed, everything is true. He is devastated. Arthur also enters his neighbor's apartment, and it's revealed they never had anything, and all the moments they had together were a hallucination. She's clearly scared that he's in the apartment. The next day, Arthur puts a pillow over his mother's face until she stops breathing. In his apartment, he begins practicing his appearance on the show, from how to enter to how to speak, and how to sit. He also plans to end his life on the show. After his makeup is done for the show, his friends Randall and Gary arrive at his house upon hearing of his mother's death. And, well, Randall doesn't have a great time, let's say. Nothing happens to Gary, of course. A dance on the stairs and a chase through the streets of Gotham later, the detectives are beaten on the train, and Arthur is able to make it to Murray's show. In the show, Arthur is introduced as Joker, where he admits to having killed the three guys on the train, complains that no one takes other people's problems seriously, and ends up shooting Murray. This causes riots on the streets. A stolen ambulance even crashes into the police car Joker was in, and he rises, becoming the icon of the movement against power in the city, including his iconic smile. One of the protesters kills Thomas Wayne and his wife, which, as many know, is the beginning of Batman's story. Wow. Summarizing the story is not that easy. There are many details that are important to understand Arthur's motivations to become Joker, to resent the system where he was raised, and a movement that destroys the streets of Gotham in such a way that this clown becomes the anti-system symbol. But take into account that this movie only lasts 2 hours, while the sequel lasts 2 hours and 17. Surely the story has even more extremely important details to add background. Why are there people who don't like the sequel? Chapter 2. Why? Let's start with the easiest. The first film is a complete story. We have an opening that explains what this mentally challenged person is like, how he navigates his daily life in this crime-ridden city. We see many issues that make him hate everyone around him, and we have a conclusion that both ends his character arc and explains the beginning of the superhero story that this is connected to. What else is there to tell? The idea of this sequel is supposed to continue the story, which is a bit complicated because we all know he'll be in jail, have a trial, and obviously he'll be found guilty because we saw it. We're aware of what happened, so to make this a little interesting, we're going to add Harley Quinn, played by Lady Gaga. When the film was announced, it was said to be a musical, but no, actually it isn't, because the music is a way to give the characters a way to express themselves, because the dialogue wasn't enough. Yeah, that sounds like what a musical is, it's not that it's impossible to unite the Joker with music, but there's really so much music in this film that not calling it a musical is really silly. I'm going to explain the story of this film now to go into more detail about what I'm talking about. The movie starts with a cartoon for some reason, not even related to anything in the story really. Joker is in prison, they're preparing him to speak with the lawyer defending him, and on the way he meets Harley Quinn, who makes the sign from the first movie. Wow. Well, the defense they try is that Arthur has problems with different personalities, Joker being his second personality that he has no control over. Because of his good behavior, Arthur joins the musical group where Lady Gaga is, and they start singing, "If the world was ending, I wanna be next to you." No, I'm kidding. He sings something less relevant, I don't know. Arthur and Harley talk about how they are there, and she set fire to her parents' apartment. On TV, they're watching a conference where they say they don't think his actions make him innocent by reason of insanity and that they'll seek the death penalty. That's when Arthur starts singing, but it was all a hallucination. He didn't actually say anything. In the next scene, he's tied to a post in the rain? I have no idea why, but it's meant to make Arthur laugh for the trailer or something. But they let Arthur watch a movie with another group of people, and at that moment, Harley sets fire to the theater, and with that, they both go to the gate, where they end up being caught again. It doesn't seem like they tried very hard, and it seems like they just wanted to sing again. Okay, obviously because of this attempt, Arthur is taken to a more secure area, and another song? Yes. It's a recurring pattern that Arthur's hallucinations start to have songs. It's the music is a way to give the characters a way to express themselves part. Arthur wakes up and finds Harley in his cell. Apparently they let her in. I don't know. She tells him that they are taking her somewhere else because they think Arthur is a bad influence on her. She asks him to put on his Joker makeup and things happen. Arthur has an interview in which he is pressured by the journalist, and despite responding with the lawyer's advice, saying that his actions were caused by his second personality, seeing a blackout and suddenly lights, he gets quite annoyed by the questions, ignoring how he's changed, and ends up singing. I'm not sure if this helps or hurts him. He's taken to the trial and sings before entering the courtroom, and you guessed it, Harley's also there and starts singing. Again, no joke. At the trial, they call a psychiatrist as a witness who says he doesn't see any evidence of multiple personalities. The psychiatrist who treated Arthur in the previous film also says the same thing. The lawyer speaks with Arthur afterward because she believes Harley is being an obstacle in the process. Arthur believes she is supporting him, but the lawyer explains that she lives with her parents and everything she's told him has been a farce. That she was in the hospital voluntarily and then left voluntarily again. And they're singing again. Wow, quite a bit of music for this non-musical. In this fantasy, Joker is betrayed because that's how Arthur feels inside. I think you get it. She then explains that she just wanted to get to know him, but didn't know how, and they sing another song together. Now Arthur's neighbor is the witness who, while explaining her story, then talks about Arthur's mother and the derogatory way she spoke of him, and wow, a moment where the song makes some sense, in which Arthur is using it to dissociate himself from this moment. But Arthur ends up firing his lawyer because he doesn't like everything he has to hear and the lies he has to tell to supposedly win the case. Upon returning to prison, a riot breaks out because of Arthur, and the next day he is able to go to trial dressed entirely as the Joker. The last witness is Gary, who says he feels intimidated and thinks about the incident every day. Arthur is only interested in himself and how he has never been seen as much as he is now. He talks about the abusive guards in the prison and ends up not defending himself at all. Another song later, Arthur returns to prison and is beaten up and abused by the guards, who also end up choking another inmate. A scene of Harley putting on makeup while singing, in no way feeling the already padded film's length. But the surprise at the trial is that Arthur Fleck wants to be honest about everything. He acknowledges that it's just a defense mechanism, that he's not really the Joker, that all his actions are his own doing. He regrets what he's done, and that he just wants to end it all and start over. Harley leaves, also not responding to Arthur's call. After an hour, the verdict comes in. They find him guilty on all accounts. Arthur laughs, and this causes a riot from the families. Someone blows up the building, and they take him away in a car, which after being at a red light, Arthur runs until he reaches the iconic stairs. With Harley on them, happy he tells her that he is finally free. that they can finally leave. But she says no. She loved Joker, but he no longer exists in him. One day they call Arthur in prison, and a guy interrupts him, who tells him he wants to tell him a joke. It ends... yeah. This is the ending they wanted to give him. It turns out that the twist after the twist is that Arthur was never the Joker that Batman knew, but that this guy who appears in some scenes apparently ends up with Arthur and he is the real Joker that everyone knows. Also because in the background we see him making the iconic smile after what he did. The idea that Arthur Fleck wasn't the real Joker we all knew had been speculated before. After all, his age compared to Bruce Wayne, who will become Batman, was much older than you'd expect. But this is just the worst way to portray it. There was an attempt at a plot twist, but it's completely unnecessary. When it comes to something as important as ending with the protagonist we've been watching for the longest time, it's necessary to do it with some taste. Plus, we already had a plot twist, in which Arthur ends up confessing, and after being freed by fans, he realizes that Harley no longer wants anything to do with him. I think it's enough on its own, and to complement it, there should be some more background to this person who seems to have randomly wanted to end Arthur. I understand. Joker is not known for being completely rational and sane. But really, are we going to make a movie longer than the previous one, in which fewer interesting things happen, only to do this ridiculous moment at the last minute? Wow, you probably didn't expect that. Yeah, I think after like the fourth song my expectations went down, but I didn't get that low until this point, if I'm honest. If only this person had stood out more, it would have made this ending better. Someone who laughs louder than others every time Arthur says something funny, who has moments on screen where his obsession is evident, whether we see it positively or negatively, and who ends up thinking that Arthur isn't someone who deserves his position as leader of the movement on the streets after seeing him confess at his trial. He needs some kind of motivation that gives some meaning to his actions, and not just us seeing him in the background at certain moments and suddenly, oops, the movie's over, haha, sorry, not sorry. It's not the only problem with the movie, but wow, it really does end up giving a bitter taste. After listening to like 15 songs, most of which seem like filler. I understand what they were trying to do. Joker had a theatrical aspect in the first movie. Giving him music in a sequel isn't entirely a bad idea on its own. The idea of Harley making his fantasies now have music isn't terrible. The problem comes when literally for every single thing that happens, a 2-minute song plays that is slightly related. It would be so much better if the music was limited to only moments that have some kind of impact on the plot, and not just doing it because you can.